What's up, Knicks fans? Welcome to another edition of Knicks Latest, your go-to YouTube channel for everything New York Knicks related. I am Josh Rodriguez. I'm bringing you the latest in headlines, rumors, scores, everything New York Knicks heading in to the most anticipated New York Knicks season since the Ewing era. This is a year in which we feel like the New York Knicks can actually win the NBA championship. Well, most of us feel that way. We'll get to a comment later. Maybe not everybody feels that way, but I thought everyone felt that way. I could be wrong. Who knows? But make sure you subscribe. Like the video, drop a comment. I use your comments for content, as you'll see today. I have 2 YouTube comments that I'll be responding to. It is a slow day. There's not much to talk about, and rather than force headlines, I'd rather just talk to you. I'd rather have conversation with you. I'd rather us talk about the New York Knicks and how we see the season going. A couple things to report on today. Actually, just one small thing that I saw, but common sense, nothing crazy. But, just want to make sure that we have a group of Knicks fans here who are objective, who are rooting for the Knicks, and who want to see an NBA championship brought to New York. Because at the end of the day, that's all what we really want here as Knicks fans. So make sure you drop a comment. Make sure you like. Make sure you subscribe. Let's get into it. This is just a quick update here. According to Steve Popper of Newsday, he's saying that the Knicks are making calls to potentially deal 2 young players. So the Knicks front office right now, they're on the phones, they're calling teams, they're trying to deal 2 people. Those right now being Tyler Kolek and Bacome Dadier. That's not really news. I think we all knew that already. That's not something that I think is going to light the world on fire. That's not something that I'm breaking right here. That's not something that is really news to anybody, but it is confirmation from Newsday. I think that you bring in Malcolm Brogdon, you bring in Landry Shamet, you bring in Garrison Matthews, and then all of a sudden Garrison Matthews starts hitting threes. He didn't seem like he was going to be on the roster. It just kind of seemed like, let's see what we have here, kick the tires. And he's shooting the 3 ball pretty well. Malcolm, although I do think his reputation is what's lifting him up here, he is somebody who you can play at the backup point guard position, knows the game very well-rounded, somebody who I think would be great to have on the team and on the roster. And I think the front office knows that, despite the fact he's not really shooting well right now. So I do think they're trying to make room for him. And then Landry Shamet, the first of the 3 that they signed, somebody who was on the team last year, went to the Eastern Conference Finals with this team, played well when Tibbs gave him the shot in the playoffs, did have an up-and-down season in the regular season, but he showed out in the most important time of the year, and I think that's very valuable. And so, why not try to keep as many as possible? And I think that's where the Knicks front office is. I think they're all in this year. You have Tyler Kolek, who played well in the 4th preseason game against the Washington Wizards. Dadier has a lot of potential that a lot of teams see. You can get maybe draft picks or something in return, open up roster spots, and away you go. Who knows? We will see, though. But I don't think that's surprising to anyone, right? We pretty much knew that they were going to try to open up at least 1 extra roster spot so they don't have to sign 1 of the 3, maybe 2 of the 3, and possibly, who knows, 3 of the 3 players that I was just talking about. So I don't think there's much more to talk about there. Let's move on to these YouTube comments. These are fun. First, I want to go to Carl. Carl says, we don't have enough to win it all this year. We put off everyone else to wait for Giannis when we should have just got more vets and KD instead of letting go to the Rockets. We could have had him for cheap. We messed up this year. Now, I get what Carl's saying. I don't know how we would have done this with the cap or what that looks like. The Knicks did not have any cap room this year. So the Knicks would have traded. They would have to have traded somebody. Like Mikal Bridges might have to have been traded. OG, Josh Hart, Mitchell Robinson. One of those guys might have been gone for you to get KD, for you to sign KD. Maybe 2 of those guys. I don't have the numbers in front of me. But for the Knicks to do what you're asking, they have to fit under the second apron. They wouldn't have been able to do that. There was no money this year. That's why they got Jordan Clarkson for cheap and Yabusele for cheap. There's a reason why the Knicks got who they got and didn't make a big splash in the offseason was because their contracts are already tied up for the most part, and then there are people who are due extensions. Mikal Bridges was due an extension before the season started, and he got one. Mitchell Robinson's still due an extension. You can even say Deuce is still due one. So I do think as far as the cap goes, this is just completely unrealistic, and I don't think I agree with that. I do think, the window is as open as ever, especially in the Eastern Conference. I think it's them and the Cavs. I think a lot of people can argue that the Cavs are the better team on paper. I wouldn't fight with you on that. They did, beat the crap out of the Knicks last year during the regular season, but so did the Boston Celtics, and we saw what happened in the playoffs. I think Cleveland is a very good team. I think they're a championship contender as well, but I think outside of the Cleveland Cavaliers, the New York Knicks are the only team in the Eastern Conference you can say that about. And if you can say that, you can go to the NBA Finals, and you're a championship contender, no matter how you look at it. We don't know who's getting there in the West. A lot of the playoffs is based off of matchups. So you might not think the Knicks can beat the Thunder, but maybe the Knicks can beat someone like the Nuggets, who they've played well against the past 2 years. So if they get the Nuggets in the finals, they can win that. They can win that series. If you have a year where, for instance, the Mavericks made it that 1 year as the 5 seed, the Knicks can win the championship. So I get what Carl's saying here. In a way, I think he wanted a more experienced team with KD, who is one of the greatest players of our generation, one of the most clutch players of our generation. He fits any team like a glove. But I disagree with it. I don't think that we messed up this year. I think the Knicks did probably the only thing they could do outside of maybe trading Karl-Anthony Towns for Giannis, if that was possible. I don't think KD was the option. And, you make the Eastern Conference last year. You take the Pacers 6 games. You never know. If a game 1 doesn't go the way it goes, maybe the Knicks are in the finals, and who knows what happens against the Oklahoma City Thunder. So I think it's very silly to say that they messed up this year, considering they didn't really have many options aside sign vets for cheap to bolster the bench or trade Karl-Anthony Towns for Giannis. You're not trading Karl-Anthony Towns for KD. The salaries don't match, and KD's too old. It just doesn't make any sense. So, this is someone who doesn't really like the roster. I can understand that. It took me a while to get used to them as well. There's a big part of me that's like, I celebrate the Knicks going to the Eastern Conference Finals last year, but for the most of the year, I was very disappointed because they couldn't beat the good teams. They couldn't beat, the Thunder. They couldn't beat the Cavs. They couldn't beat the Celtics. They couldn't beat the Warriors. They couldn't beat anybody. And then they had trouble against the Pistons, and now we're celebrating the team because, they beat the Celtics in 6, but that also took 2 miracles in Boston in games 1 and 2. So I can understand how some Knicks fans are looking at this roster like, man, last year was kind of an aberration. Like, this is not it. We need to change this up. And I think that this is where this comment is coming from. I just don't think that the solution in this comment makes much sense. All right, next comment comes from One Dance Hall. And One Dance Hall says, I want Shamet and Matthews for small forward shooting off the bench. I don't see Josh or Malcolm playing over Deuce and Clarkson. Now, I can understand this, like 95% of this YouTube comment wanting Shamet and Matthews off the bench. I understand that. I was advocating for Shamet, the whole offseason because I think he's exactly what the bench needed. And this is, before they sound Brogdon, before they sound anybody, because you have Clarkson, you have Deuce, you have Yabusele. You kind of just need that small forward 3 spot, what, One Dance Hall saying here. Kind of just a 3-and-D shooter, somebody who can shoot the ball, play in the corner, catch and shoot, doesn't need the basketball, doesn't demand much, plays the position as defensively pretty well. Someone like Shamet, he fits perfectly in my position, in my mind. The Knicks don't really have someone at that position to fill a bench need. It's, Deuce is more of a 2 combo guard. Same with Jordan Clarkson, who can handle the rock a little bit. Yabusele's a 4, small ball 5. Josh Hart is somebody who's more of like a Swiss Army knife, but he's not a shooter. So you needed a Shamet and you needed a Matthews. So I 100% agree with that. Where I don't agree with you here is I don't see Josh playing over Deuce and Clarkson. You can sell me on not seeing Malcolm Brogdon playing because of his injury history. We don't know what he looks like just yet in a full season if he's going to get it back. I mean, let's just be honest. He's getting older. He's hurt. Maybe he doesn't play well, and you need to start Deuce and Clarkson off the bench. You can sell me on that, but Josh is 1,000% playing. There's just, even if Shamet's in the rotation, Josh is playing. And Josh is playing minutes. Josh is too valuable to this team. Josh is, he's an integral part of what the Knicks do. He is the Swiss Army knife of the team. He's Mr. Intangible. He brings energy. He does too much to keep off the bench. And I understand that, he has a splinter in his finger now. He's not confident shooting right now. Team sagged off him last year. It caused problems in the half court. I get that. I understand the downsides, so to say, of Josh Hart, but the upside's way too good. The man's way too good to keep off the floor. I think he's a starter in this league, but on this team, he's better off the bench just because the Knicks are so stacked in the way that they're built. It makes sense for him to come off the bench, but he's a super sub. He's somebody who can play 25, 30, 35 minutes if you need him to. There's just no way in hell you keep Josh Hart. I'm sorry. You don't sit Josh Hart. You don't. He's too valuable. He's a good defender. He gets too many boards, offensive boards, good passer, leads the break. He can score despite the fact he doesn't like shooting too much. He's too good of a basketball player. He's a very unique basketball player, and there's no way I'm putting Landry Shamet over him, even though Shamet can shoot the ball better than him. I'm just not. There's too many things that Josh does well. So I do agree with you, though, that, you can see Deuce and Clarkson playing over Malcolm. I'm somebody who, that's the reason why I pushed for Shamet, because I didn't think there was room for Malcolm or room for Clarkson, Deuce, and Malcolm at the same time. Somebody's going to have to sit there. They all kind of play the same position. Shamet, there's more of a clear path there where it's like, okay, he's a small forward. He's a shooter. We don't really have that on the team. He can get minutes there. So I think you might be right there. I'm sure that Mike Brown's going to have to choose between Shamet and Hart during certain situations, but Josh Hart's going to win out on that most of the time, for sure. Like 1,000% he is. So we'll see what happens, though. I could be wrong. You might be right. We'll see. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. Who do you want to fill that final roster spot or those final 2 roster spots? Are you cool with letting go of Tyler Kolek now that he's, playing better? Dottier, same thing. He's young. Do you just want to hold on to that? Do you care about building for the future, or are you all in now like Leon Rhodes and the Knicks seem to be? Knicks play Friday. Last preseason game before next week's game against the Cleveland Cavaliers at the Garden. Can't wait for that. Let me know your predictions. Let me know what you want to see from the Knicks going into that game as well. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you comment, subscribe. I'll see you tomorrow for another episode of Knicks Latest. Peace.